They weren't supposed to exist. Before the pyramids, before writing, before the wheel, someone carved monuments aligned with stars, raised from the earth with knowledge we cannot explain. These aren't myths. They are memories set in stone. What if civilization didn't begin, but restarted? What if the stories we call legend are echoes of something real, something older than history itself? Across the world, in windswept plateaus and forgotten hills, colossal stones stand in silence, monoliths that have watched millennia pass like moments. These are not random arrangements of rock. They are deliberate, immense, and alive with ancient symbolism. At Göbekli Tepe, in the highlands of southeastern Turkey, an extraordinary sight emerges from the soil. Dating to around 9600 BCE, over 11,000 years ago, it predates Stonehenge by more than 6 millennia and the Egyptian pyramids by 7. Here, towering T-shaped pillars, some rising over 5.5 meters and weighing up to 10 tons, form great circular enclosures. Each stone was quarried, carved, transported, and aligned with purpose, long before the invention of agriculture, metallurgy, or even the wheel. What's carved into them is even more astonishing. Foxes leap across their surfaces. Boars, serpents, lions, vultures, and spiders emerge in low relief, frozen mid-motion. Some images repeat across different pillars, as if part of a lost symbolic language. Others depict abstract symbols, H-like motifs, crescents, and enigmatic hands clasped at the front of faceless humanoid forms. Many archaeologists believe these carvings represent spiritual or cosmological knowledge, possibly linked to seasonal cycles, constellations, or the soul's journey after death. Some scholars, like Klaus Schmidt, the site's original excavator, argued that Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial or ritual center for nomadic bands. Others speculate it may have been an early temple complex, perhaps even a pilgrimage site. What's haunting is not just its scale, but its context. The builders were hunter-gatherers, not settled farmers. They had no cities, no script, no known political systems. Yet they orchestrated a monumental project requiring foresight, coordination, and architectural sophistication we never expected from the so-called primitive peoples of that era. Even more mysterious, around 8000 BCE, the entire site was deliberately buried under tons of soil and rubble, not destroyed, but preserved, as if the builders wished to protect it or hide it. In these silent stones, we glimpse not just an anomaly, but a window into a world whose memory lingers in symbols, waiting to be understood. Who were the visionaries who shaped these monoliths? What stories did they encode in foxes and serpents? And why, after such unimaginable effort, did they choose to leave it all behind? Conventional history frames civilization as a recent spark, flaring to life around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago in the rich soils of the Fertile Crescent. There, in Mesopotamia, villages like Eridu and Ur coalesced into cities. By 3500 BCE, Uruk had 40,000 inhabitants, monumental ziggurats, record-keeping systems, and administrative institutions. The invention of writing, cuneiform,
communities
further
gathered to
crystallized
share knowledge,
humanity's
trade goods,
first
or perform rites
civilization,
that bound them
as
together.
we're told.
Nearby
But the
sites
stones
like Karahan,
scattered
Tepe,
across the deep
and
past
Navala
tell a
Chori,
different
now
story.
partially lost
A story
to modern
without
dams,
kings,
reveals
without grain surpluses, without writing, but not without purpose. At Göbekli Tepe, high in the Anatolian hills of modern-day Turkey, towering T-shaped megaliths were arranged into ceremonial circles by a society that had no cities, no agriculture, and no known political hierarchy. Dated to 9600 BCE, over 7,000 years before the pyramids, it rewrites the timeline. This was no mere campsite. It was a sacred center constructed with engineering precision, abstract carvings, and astronomical alignments. Nor is Göbekli Tepe alone. In Jericho, long before biblical walls, the remains of a Neolithic tower and a defensive stone wall date to around 8000 BCE. In Ain Ghazal, Jordan, life-size statues with shell eyes and haunting expressions were crafted as early as 7200 BCE, suggesting sophisticated ritual practices among pre-agricultural peoples. Even in the Japanese archipelago, the Jomon people, contemporaries of Mesopotamian farmers, created pottery, longhouses, and ritual figurines over 14,000 years ago, challenging the notion that complex culture requires cultivation. These relics aren't isolated anomalies. They are fragments of a forgotten worldview, of people who could organize labor, align with the stars, and shape stone with intention. And yet, they left no written language, no great empires, only mysteries carved in rock. The standard narrative draws a clean line: hunter-gatherers, then farmers, then cities. But these monuments refuse to fit. They rise as memory in stone, testaments to a world where complexity emerged not from bureaucracy, but from belief, vision, and perhaps something older still. Around the globe, archaeologists have begun to uncover city ruins submerged under coastal waters, startling evidence that ancient peoples once lived where now there is sea. For example, Pavlopetri off Greece was a thriving Bronze Age town, settled by 3500 BCE, whose streets and buildings sank beneath the Aegean a few millennia ago. Underwater exploration in 1967 first mapped its 2.5-acre grid of sunken homes and courtyards. In India's Arabian Sea, divers have found stone blocks and anchors off Dwarka, the mythic city of Krishna. Excavations, 1983-1990, revealed city walls and carved pillars at depths suggesting the city was overtaken by the sea. Though dating remains debated, estimates range from 3000 to 1500 BCE or later. Even ancient Egypt had a lost port city. Thonis Heracleion, near modern Alexandria, was Egypt's greatest Mediterranean harbor before 331 BCE. This city sank after a series of earthquakes by the 8th century CE. Modern archaeologists rediscovered its temple ruins and even a 24-meter warship in the mud. These finds show that sea level rise, earthquakes, or tsunamis have swallowed cities once thought only mythical. Many of these ancient monuments seem built with a view of the heavens. Long before telescopes or written calendars, people placed huge stones to mark stars and seasons. A vivid example is Newgrange in Ireland, 13200 BCE, a passage tomb whose chamber is illuminated by a beam of the rising sun only at winter solstice. Each year, the dawn light travels down the long corridor and floods the inner chamber with golden light, a sure sign the Neolithic builders understood the solar cycle. Similarly, megalithic complexes like Stonehenge, 5,000 years old, were aligned to solstices, and folk across the world built circles, pyramids, or temple axes pointing to celestial events. These rock monuments are silent observatories. We can still read their alignments and feel the intent of their builders. Throughout human cultures, tales of a great deluge and vanished kingdoms abound. Every region seems to have its flood story. The Epic of Gilgamesh, with Utnapishtim's boat, the biblical Noah, and Hindu legends like Manu guided by a fish, or the Aztec couple, Tata and Nena, surviving a God-sent flood. Anthropologists note these myths are astoundingly similar across continents. Whether they arose from shared memories of sea level rise after the Ice Age, or simply reflect common narrative themes, legends of lost continents, Plato's Atlantis from 360 BCE, or the 19th century Mu, mingle history with imagination. Mainstream scholarship generally views Atlantis as allegory, but the story hints that real coastal cities could vanish in cataclysms. In this segment, the voice grows mysterious and rhetorical. Recall that every culture's gods or heroes might once have been human leaders, their deeds magnified by generations. Science tells us that Earth's climate doesn't always change gradually. It can snap. Around 12,800 years ago, as the last ice age was ending, the planet was jolted into an unexpected freeze. The Younger Dryas, as we now call it, lasted over 1,000 years. Theories suggest that glacial meltwater pouring into the Atlantic disrupted ocean currents, collapsing the warming climate like a house of cards. In Europe, the impact was brutal. What had been forested plains teeming with game became desolate tundra. Archaeological data shows entire regions depopulated. Stone tool traditions vanished, replaced by simpler survival techniques. The early centuries, between 12,850 and 12,200 years before present, were marked by intense cold, widespread drought, and ecological collapse. Many groups withdrew into isolated refugees, others vanished entirely. And yet, from that silence, civilization begins to re-emerge. When the Younger Dryas ended, the Earth warmed rapidly. Within a few centuries, we see agriculture bloom in the Fertile Crescent. Villages take root, temples rise, writing appears. Mainstream scholars view this as a linear recovery, a rebirth, not a rediscovery. They insist no evidence of an advanced society exists beneath the Younger Dryas layers. But the pattern is worth noticing. Sudden climate change, mass disruption, cultural amnesia, then a leap forward. Could progress be cyclical, not linear? Could older knowledge have been lost, buried beneath the sediments of catastrophe? Even skeptics acknowledge the fragility of civilization. The Younger Dryas reminds us, all it takes is one planetary hiccup, and thousands of years of memory can vanish overnight. There may be no Atlantean empire beneath the ice, but there is a deeper truth. Our world is older, harsher, and more forgetful than we like to admit. And in that forgetting might lie echoes of something we have yet to find. Stone remembers what paper forgets. From buried cities to sacred mountains, from drowned temples to sky-watching stones, the past whispers, but only to those who listen. If we are only the latest chapter, the question remains, when our time fades, what will we leave behind? And who will be there to remember us? Subscribe to Informed Earth. We explore the forgotten histories, hidden tribes, and untold truths